Eggs, 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 eggs. Everybody must eat eggs. Eggs, 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 eggs. Everybody must eat eggs. Wake up, everybody. Today is August 6th, and we are Never Free to Play, a podcast where we talk about all the video games we wish we were playing. I'm one of your hosts, Karch Palashji, joined by my co-host, Jason Wright. If you decide you like us, even though we've never worked at IGN, you can find us at neverfreetoplay.com, patreon.com/neverfreetoplay, or on all the other social media. We are Never Free to Play. If you have questions, comments, thoughts, ideas, feedback, please send it to us at neverfreetoplay@gmail.com. Jason, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, man.
How fantastic?
Yeah. So this past week, I did like the first super handy thing that I've ever done in my life.
Ooh.
All by myself. I mean, I've done some stuff, but this I was probably the
before
most.
You tell me what it is, what before that? What was the reigning champ?
Probably changing out the starter in my Honda Civic in the parking lot of an O'Reilly's on a work business trip in dress clothes with only one socket wrench that I borrowed from the said O'Reilly's.
Dude, that's impressive. I'm excited to hear what you've got for me.
And now that I think about it, that's kind of a little more impressive. I will never forget that. That was a weird situation to be in. I had driven down, I used to live in LA. I had driven down to San Diego for a work trip, and for whatever reason, like I accidentally like signed up too late for the conference, so I didn't book the same hotel that the conference center was in. Mm-hmm. So at the end of the day, I was going to try to go back to my hotel, and my car wouldn't start. And I had literally just replaced the alternator and the starter like a couple weeks prior. Mm-hmm. So I knew exactly how to do it. I knew where everything was. And then like I had the AAA dude come help me pop the clutch, and then I drove it to like a AutoZone or an O'Reilly's, and I just changed the starter out in the parking lot, and I was good to go. And that is when I decided that car had to go, and I was going to trade it in. But this is the thing that I was like, holy cow, maybe there's hope for me. Maybe those dad powers are like going to come to me. They're going to absorb into me somehow. I mean, it's not that crazy. I fixed our washer, mm-hmm. but I've never torn apart an entire washer before. And I had to like pop the top off and then take the guard off and then, get everything unscrewed and then take the little spin basket out and then take the thing out under that. And it was a whole thing, man. And ended up that the thing that was messing up the washer, it was a little collar stay that had somehow gotten way, way, way down into the washer, and it was like covering the hole where the recirculator pump like circulates the water and drains. What
is a collar stay?
It's that little plastic piece that it goes in the collar of like a dress shirt to keep yeah, it's so stupid. And who knows how long that, because this is a hand-me-down washer, who knows how long that collar stay's been in there.
Disgusting.
But the crazy part was, in order to get the spin basket, this part you put your clothes in that spins, it's got the center shaft. So you have to pull the basket out from that shaft, and I could not, for the life of me, get this thing off. Like, it was not gonna come off. So I went on YouTube. What they told you to do is like get a piece of wood and get a car jack, mm-hmm. and like wedge the wood in there, and then use the car jack and put it on the center shaft and crank the car jack so the wood pushes the spin basket up. And I got to tell you, I felt like a champion getting that thing off.
Dude, that was an arousing bit of...
right? I don't care if it's terrible podcast material. If anybody out there needs to know how to fix their washer, I'm pretty sure I can take apart any washer. You give us a call at neverfreetoplay@gmail.com. I'll come to your house and I'll fix your washer.
You will, for one like. Not even a subscribe, not even a share.
Nope. I want a sub.
Nope, you're getting a like and that's it.
Okay, I guess I'm a cheap date.
You take apart the dryer. Then we'll talk.
Yeah, I got to do that too, but we'll save that for another episode. What have you got going on?
Nothing. Never. I mean, we rearranged a bunch of stuff. We broke a fan. So my lighting might look a little different, but ironically, it'll probably look better because of the fun lamps that I have in front of my face. See, dark.
I'm really excited
Light.
about it because I've been asking
Dark.
you to get
light.
I've been asking you to get lamps since the first episode.
Turns out I had them all
telling
along.
me. Well, you kept telling me you didn't have the space for them.
Well, I wouldn't have had space for these have like clips and they're on the desk, because they're desk clip lamps. Again, I didn't know they existed. Like if you asked me to put just like find a lamp in my house and stick it on, like I don't have room for it. It wouldn't have gone anywhere.
I got you.
So I will look slightly more illuminated, and which makes Jason happy. But yeah, don't have much else. We're gonna get a bigger TV in the living room.
I'm so excited about that too.
Me too.
Because I get to help shop.
In the meantime, though, we have the smaller TV in our bedroom again, and I had to go play Ghost of Tsushima on that, and it's really depressing to have to play on a dinky little 32-inch. It's sad. But
I would almost be inclined to like bust out the Vita and remote play it.
Remote play it on what?
On the Vita.
Oh. Yeah, if that worked well. That would, oh my gosh. Yeah. I've tried it.
But see, I think part of that's your Wi-Fi's fault.
It's even a perfect connection. If you need to use L3 or R3 in any meaningful way, and even R2 and L2 starts to get really annoying, it's just too hard. You can't.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I mean, anyway, we don't have to go into that, but there are workarounds with using the controller, and then there's controller mounts.
Oh my gosh, I've done that too. And that actually, what?
I was just remembering, you could technically do it on your phone, and I bet it would work better.
No, that never came to phones.
Yeah, it did.
When?
I can remote play PS4 on my iPhone, and you could do it on your Android.
I guess we'll have to take a look after the episode.
No, we won't, because I know that you can.
All right. If you say so. We've been down this road before, and it wasn't true when we did this last time.
Okay, well, it is true now.
That's great. I'll have to check that. I'll have to check it out.
Okay, cool.
All right. Housekeeping. Please even if Jason doesn't come to your house and fix your washer, please sub. Even if he doesn't take apart your dryer. Follow us on Twitter so you can see all the funny things I say. I'll say more funny things if you follow us. My finally plays for Final Fantasy IX is up, episode 4. Hopefully I'll get back on a week-to-week schedule with that. Trying to do slightly longer episodes because I really don't want to be doing this for almost a whole year before I move on to the next game. And Jason, do you have anything for us?
Yeah, speaking of regular schedule, Greg and I don't have one because of Greg's crazy work schedule. So I think what I'm going to try to do is at least get one every other week. So like twice a month, do these. And then anything else will be gravy. So that's going to be our new thing, is we're going to try to do one every other week. And I'm deciding that right now unilaterally. Hopefully Greg's on board with it.
Can't see how he wouldn't be.
Me neither.
He's got to show up every week to be upset about it in the first place.
Right.
Yep. No shout outs this week because nobody was nice to us except Sean. There you go.
You know, I heard not a lot of people are using the internet these days, and I'm thinking that might be part of our problem.
Yeah, everyone's really busy going back out.
Right.
Having too much fun. Risking it all. Rolling those dice.
You know, I had this thought, and I hope I haven't said this on the podcast before, but I was just like driving down the road the other day, and it was shortly after. It was like before the statewide mask mandate, but it was like after they had lifted kind of like all the quarantine restrictions and the bars and the restaurants were open. And there was a Texas Roadhouse that was packed out. Ugh. And I was just thinking to myself, if I'm risking my life, it ain't going to be to eat at Texas Roadhouse.
You might as well, man. Why not? Because you're not risking your life anymore. Like, that's the mindset. So,
well, I guess to them, I just, if I'm going to do that, I'm going to like Ruth's Chris or something like that.
You can only do that once. You can't just go there every night.
I suppose. Yeah, I can't go to Texas Roadhouse every night either. Ugh. It's too expensive to eat out. Anyway.
It is. All right. It's a lot of news. So this is going to be a newsy episode. So let's get started. Buckle in. We have a state of play from PlayStation, mostly PlayStation 4. They said there wouldn't be any PlayStation 5 stuff, but they lied a little bit, or unless they meant like console-specific stuff. I don't know. Anyway, we'll talk about that at the tail end of our news section. But first, PS4 controllers will not work with PS5 games. This comes from Kotaku by Mike Fahey. Fahey, friend of the show. Mike.
Mikey!
Friends whose names we can't pronounce. So yeah, that's the official party line. That basically that games made for the PS5 will not incorporate the PS4 controller. Now that's probably not entirely true, but they're saying it in such a way that's like, A, they want to hype up this new controller that they'll be producing, and B, there's no guarantee that there will be, forward compatibility with the games, backward compatibility with the controllers, etc. So that's kind of a bummer. I think it's a little silly. Jason, what do you think about that?
I think it's kind of ridiculous and totally unnecessary. I don't understand that mentality, but I guess Sony's on top, so they're going to use their position to profit. And I mean, that's within their control and that's their decision to make. It's just, I feel like with Sony recently, we've just seen one anti-consumer choice after another.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like eventually, no matter how good their games are, they're going to fall out of grace with hardcore gamers. But luckily, hardcore gamers have no spine, so they'll still buy the games. They'll just complain about it louder on social media.
Yeah. And I mean, to be fair, it is a tiny use case of people who will be affected by this because, your PS5 will come with a PS5 controller, a DualSense. I mean, it better. Like, I can't imagine a world where it doesn't.
But it'd be nice if you could use your PS4 controller as a secondary controller and not have to buy another probably $80 or $90 controller.
Controllers, it better.
I mean, right? They're already, $60 or $70? I can't imagine the DualSense not being more expensive.
Yeah. Because, they're not going to be producing PS4 controllers anymore. So, again, it's not like you have to worry. I mean, yeah, there's always a secondhand market, but there's always a secondhand market. You can't control that. And I don't think that's what they're trying to do necessarily, but...
Here's what really bugs me. You're sitting here and telling me that you can't possibly use they're not citing technical limitations, but at the end of the day, you're saying you can't use PS4 technology on the PS5.
Mm-hmm.
We're just not going to allow it. But at the same time, they're letting you use PS3 motion controllers for the PSVR.
I will say, specifically the games, the PS4 games that run on PS5, you will be able to, without issue, use a PS4 controller, which goes back to my first point where this technically will probably be possible, but you might run into some hiccups because it won't be officially supported.
Let's hope that's the case.
Yeah.
So there's at least a little bit of support, but and I can't imagine something like an indie game why you would need to have a PS5 controller for it. You know what I mean?
Got to get that DualSense, those cool haptic vibrations. Haptic. All right, so we are not done with Sony yet and their scummy practices, but we'll get to that here in a second. Surprise announcement from Nintendo, Pikmin 3 Deluxe coming to the Switch on October 30th. So that's just a little less than 3 months away. A little less than 3 months away. So people have been begging for Pikmin for a while. Ports, Pikmin 4, Pikmin something, anything, you name it. They just wanted more Pikmin. And it's finally here. And except it's only 3. That's kind of a bummer. I wish they could have just done all of them because they did. I'm pretty sure they remade 1 and 2 for the Wii or the Wii U, or both, one for one for the other. I can't remember. They ported it at some point. And I would really like to play the originals too, because otherwise I'm probably just going to skip this. My only experience with Pikmin would be I played it once or twice at your house when you might have either purchased it, gotten it for Christmas or something, or rented it.
I think Greg had it for the GameCube.
Yeah, that's what it was.
So, yeah, and that's the only time I've played it too, really. And I just can never really get into it because I never really... Maybe it's just me being a dumb kid because that's literally the only time I've played it. But I really couldn't understand what I was supposed to be doing, except for throwing the same colored things at other things. And I don't know. I can guarantee you I didn't beat it.
No. It was a trial and error kind of game because you had a time limit. every day passed, whether or not you did well or not, it didn't matter. I think maybe you could get a game over and you'd have to start that day over. But otherwise, like if you got through with just a couple Pikmin or something, like okay, we're moving on to the next day, which would prevent you from doing certain things the next day and so forth and so on. And basically, the goal was to build the ship and get off the planet back to your home or whatever. And you could do that in varying degrees of success. And then the idea was that you would just play it again because it wasn't very long. And then you would try to do it better, faster, or whatever the case might have been.
Well, I'm glad that it's out there for the people who have been begging for it, but it's definitely a skip for me.
Yeah. Still don't think we'll see Pikmin 4 anytime soon. Like, I don't think that's what this indicates, but we shall see.
I agree with you. And it reminds me a little bit of, and I say a little bit, of The Wonderful 101, where there's just like, there's too much going on for me to have to like try to keep track of. And I always sucked at real-time strategy games. So,
and that's kind of what it is. It's this weird, goofy, micro RTS game. And I love those, so... At least all right, let me rephrase. I love StarCraft from my youth. I won't pretend like I played a bunch of other ones.
The truth comes out.
I liked Age of Empires. Everybody played Age of Empires and the Star Wars clone of Age of Empires. That game was awesome. Did you ever play that one? Battlegrounds?
Negative. Because let me reiterate this. I sucked at real-time strategy games.
But it was so did we when we played it as like, when we did LAN stuff. So much fun,
I guarantee you Sean's going to take umbrage with that remark.
No, okay. It's always everybody but Sean. Sean was good at stuff he played consistently. All right, so back to Sony and scummy practices. Marvel's Avengers, the current gen game coming out in September, has decided that Spider-Man will be exclusive to PS4 and probably the PS5. Definitely not coming to Microsoft and PC though. That's for sure. And people are mad.
Yeah, explain the anger to me, because this is one where, like, as much as I am the ultimate consumer, like, I just don't see how people have a leg to stand on with this argument that Sony should just, out of the goodness of their heart, let Spider-Man be on every version of Avengers.
Well, it's not because they don't by default have the right to him. They have a huge monumental foot in the door to make this happen, and obviously that's what happened. They have the movie rights, they had the exclusive game of exclusive
I thought
Spider-Man
they had
game.
The exclusive game rights too.
Nope,
to the Spider-Man character.
Because he's on Marvel Ultimate Alliance on the Switch.
Oh, that's a good point.
No, previously the game rights did belong to Activision a while back. I think they were the only ones who could. I think they held the rights, and they did let those lapse. And then now it's kind of like it's de facto Sony. And so, and it's just kind of, people are mad for a lot of reasons because people are always going to get mad. Spider-Man is huge. He's not my favorite. He never has. I'll never understand the extreme love people have for him, but he is huge. He is the Batman and Superman of the Marvel universe. The MCU has gone and made huge strides to bring other people to the forefront that aren't Wolverine and Spider-Man. But even still, it's Spider-Man all the way. And so some people,
sure.
What was probably sitting, they knew he was coming. This was going to be their chance to play, especially if they hadn't had a PS4, they missed out on that other exclusive. Well, at least I'll play him in Avengers. Nope, not anymore. So there's that.
So I guess I don't understand how Sony got to make that call. And
it's not just them. It's I don't know the specifics, but basically all exclusive deals boil down to a contract and extra money for the developer and publisher. Now, why were they able to do that did they have any additional leverage because of their history with the IP and Disney maybe stepping in? Because again, they got to keep them happy because they have the movie rights. So who knows? There's a lot of theories out there, but there's nobody actually knows how this went down aside from the fact that it did.
Sure, and I'm sure it wasn't Crystal Dynamics' call to do that, because I don't see what their incentive would be to do that. But we're going to have to research this a little bit and maybe put in corrections for next week, because I really thought that Sony had the movie rights and that they were licensing it to Disney. Unless they do have the movie rights. Okay. Not the game rights. So then we're going to have to figure out who has the gaming rights.
I don't think anybody does. I think Marvel's gaming division has it, and then of course at this point they're never going to give them away again.
Gotcha.
But yes, we will do research and do a quick corrections next week. And then finally, you asked why are people mad? The last thing I would point out is that it's so late in the game. Like, obviously, Spider-Man hasn't been promised yet as like a DLC character, except for maybe this was like his announcement. But it's like we're like a month out, and now they tell us it's kind of like, that's the wrong time to do it. You should have done it a while ago. But I don't understand why
they're trying to build hype for the PlayStation, for the PS4 version.
Sure. I get it. Like, I don't care because this game looks so boring to me. I could watch some more gameplay and I just don't get it. Aside from the IP, and that I understand, but that's not my Thor. That's not my Captain America. I don't know those guys.
Yeah.
So I don't want to play it in the first place.
I'm definitely gonna check out the beta. I don't have heartburn over this. It's just simply because I think it's a business decision that they made, and so you can get upset about it, but at the end of the day, it's kind of, as much as I hate to say this, it is what it is.
I'm going to take away your card, your consumer card.
Yeah,
your credit card. That's what I'm going to take your credit card.
I get really upset about things I perceive to be totally unfair that are like, just why would you do it that way?
It is unfair.
The controller thing.
It is unfair because it's not paid. It's free. All the DLC, to my knowledge anyway, is like, it comes with the game. So it's the same argument that happened last year with Call of Duty in some mode that's still exclusive to PS4 that they didn't have to pay anything extra. You're not giving PS4 a privilege. You're punishing PC and Xbox because there's no difference. No one's done anything except not own a PS4, And that's just, it's scummy. That's all there is to it. It is a business decision. It's just a scummy one.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I get it. But like my reaction to it is, oh man, that stinks.
Yeah, I get the same. I just don't care enough to get mad about it. Aside from all I can do is point out, like, yeah, if it was, I don't know, like what if they did it with Batman in a DC equivalent? Would you think it's like, would that hit home to you more? Or be more bizarre to you? I'm trying
to put myself in a situation where I would be mad about it. The only thing that comes to mind that I'm like a little bit frustrated with, that's a similar scenario that we actually kind of talked about before we started recording, is the xCloud being on Android and not on iPhone.
Yeah.
But I do think Microsoft has said that they are bringing it to iPhone eventually. They're bringing it to iOS, just it won't be there at launch.
Right, and then some of the
that just sounds like a resource constraint thing more than anything.
Potentially.
And to be honest with you, anytime something doesn't come to iOS, I just always assume that's Apple's fault because
it probably is, yeah.
Because like for instance, Steam had a remote play app that it might be back on iOS, but I don't think that it is. But they ended up having to pull it off because they just couldn't come to an agreement with Apple, and I assume it had something to do with like in-app purchase split percentage on revenue or whatever. But my point is like there's some things that I'm trying to put myself in that situation. I guess that frustrates me that it's coming to Android, it's not coming to iPhone right away. But I don't know. I'm just not a fan of outrage culture. So maybe that's more of what it is. It's like my reaction to outrage culture more so than like my anger with Sony.
Yeah, that can sway you one way or the other.
So,
all right. Next up, tomorrow, by the time this goes live, it'll have happened. Horizon Zero Dawn is launching on PC August 7th. So that'll be cool. A lot of people, reviews were out yesterday, and I guess it's a bit buggy. PC port tends to be sometimes, especially if it wasn't like at launch. I find for some reason, even though they're taking their time to make it happen, PC ports that happen after the fact are always a little bit more shaky. But people still think it looks amazing, and it's still the same game that Horizon was. So people are it's reviewing quite well.
Sure. I would play it here. The only thing is that it looks like it's launching for $50.
That's too much.
And I could probably get it for like 10 on the PS4.
You can get it for 10 or 20 with the DLC.
Yeah.
It's just so silly. What was it? It was Skyrim. Skyrim still costs $60 on the Switch. It was on sale for $30, but its base price is still $60 on the Switch. Like, what is that?
I don't know. It's chalk that up to another Sony anti-consumer move. See, that one bothers me. That one right there bothers me because I'm just like, it's a port of a 4-year-old game, and I get that you're trying to allow it to be available to an audience that didn't previously have access to it, and maybe they're willing to pay the $50 to play it. Mm-hmm. But for someone like me who's just, I'd rather play it on PC because I don't want to restart it on my PS4.
Yeah.
It kind of stinks.
I don't like to devalue games. I like for someone who doesn't want them to go to 70. I also don't like when they drop under 60 so quickly, because I think it leads to you get problems in both directions. Basically, I think the $40 to $60 is a real good sweet spot. Stop lowering the price of your game so quickly if you're going to want to charge more for it later. There's a disconnect. You can't, it's so hard to look to your left and be like, but it's so cheap over here.
That's a really good point. I think that's what it is more than anything, because if you take the Nintendo approach, then you never get mad. The Nintendo games typically never drop below 55. So if Nintendo ported their entire library over to Steam tomorrow, mm-hmm. and every single game was $60, I'd be like, oh yeah.
Nobody would care, because that's fine. There's no argument here. Also, that would be crazy unprecedented. That's a totally... I don't even
sure, yeah. I'm just using it as an example of like you said, don't do these crazy discounted prices if you're going to want to charge more for it later.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yep. Because the game is still good even 4 years later. Like, obviously, a newness has a factor to it, but like, it's hard. We've talked about it before. I don't want to get in the weeds right now. Speaking of costs, though, and money stuff, Nintendo had their first quarter financial report, and they're doing quite well. 61 million Switches sold as of, I think the numbers end at June or July. Don't remember. I think it's June. Because quarters are 3 months, right, Jason?
I know that now. It's okay. You know what? Usually, when I think a quarter, I think 1/4. So I think in increments of 4.
No,
okay?
It's totally understand. 1/3 is, I think of in 4. No, it doesn't work like that. But no, so I think it ended at June. All these numbers are as of at the June 30th. But 61 million Switches sold, so that's very good. That's obviously like 4 to 5 times as many Wii U's are out there. And I think recently they passed the SNES, which was. So they need to, next would be NES. They got to pass that.
Do you think they'll hit 100 million Switches lifetime?
That sounds like a stretch at this point. I think we're going to start to see sales drop off quite a bit since they've already released the miniature model, the Switch Mini, as it's called.
No, it's not called that.
It's called the Switch Mini. All our fans are calling it the Switch Mini.
One of our fans is calling it the Switch Mini.
Can you call them a fan?
No,
I didn't think so. So 61 million Switches sold. Animal Crossing cemented as number 2 best-selling Nintendo-published title on the Switch at 22 million, just behind Mario Kart's 26. So Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is a port of a Wii U game and sells like crazy on this console still, but has been out since the beginning. Like, I think it came out within the first 3 to 4 months of the Switch launching, so it's had a nice amount of time to build up 26 million. Animal Crossing, however, came out at the end of March and has already sold 22 million units. Thank you, COVID.
That is insane. And I was sitting here thinking to myself, if you asked me what was the number 1 selling game on the Switch, I would have told you Breath of the Wild, because everybody who bought a Switch at launch bought Breath of the Wild. But it looks like Breath of the Wild has 18.6 million
very
units
good
sold.
still.
And wow, that's super impressive. Like, that just puts this in perspective, the attach rate of this.
Right.
Insane.
1 in 3 people, or 1 in 3 Switches, have an accompanying Animal Crossing copy with it. It's insane.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess technically that's true for Mario Kart too, but like, that's not insane. People have been playing Mario Kart en masse. It's been a fan favorite for years. It's one of their best sellers every single time.
Well, it's crazy because I saw a bunch of people on my Facebook feed that I would have never perceived as gamers, did not even know they owned a Switch, and they were talking about selling turnips on Facebook. And I was like, huh, cool. Didn't know that. Like some of my friends' moms, stuff like that. It was just like insane. But good for Nintendo, really.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if that translates into future success, because they're not coming out with another Animal Crossing game in a long time. Like, this is going to be the Animal Crossing game for a very long time. And obviously this success will, and sales will continue. Like, this isn't the ceiling for Animal Crossing, but I don't know. Because like people who these numbers came out today and people were talking about it on Twitter and Reddit and stuff. It's like, oh yeah, Nintendo's doing fine. But I'm like, well, I mean, yes, technically their stocks and they're like all the numbers look nice and good and the profits are up 428% since last quarter or last year or whatever. But my interest is waning. And I know other people's interest is waning. Like we talked about this last week or the week before. You haven't touched your Switch in months. Like probably this entire quarantine. I don't think you've used it.
No, not outside of playing Mario with Luke.
Right. And that's like, that doesn't count,
Right.
You'll find something to replace that. If that's all the Switch is offering you, whatever comes next, you're not going to buy that just to play it with Luke unless you like something happens and he like.
I am, but I get your point.
My mistake.
Because I have a sickness, not that's because true. I'm a normal person.
I have a sickness. That's true. So yeah, I mentioned offhand just a moment ago, but profits up 428%, which is a very large number. So we're probably going to be seeing $70 games any day now for Nintendo too, because they're going to need to bolster those revenue models with a higher sticker price on brand new games.
I will be interested to see how Nintendo reacts to next gen and when they decide to release a new console, and is it a tick or a tock sort of thing?
Yeah, it's always like, I don't know,
because they're the ones, like, they haven't really done the PS4 Pro with, you know what I mean? They've never done that.
I don't think they're going to.
And
that's not entirely true. The DS
either.
The DS Lite or what it was.
That's a good point. And so with their portables, they kind of do.
Yeah.
And this is a hybrid, so it'll be interesting to see what they do.
I think at this point it's too late, and anything they come out with would be too little too late to come out with anything else. I think they need to ride out the remaining lifespan of the Switch, maybe release the next one earlier if things are starting to go south, but I think this is going to be a solid gen for them. This cycle of the Switch cycle will have been a major success, and that obviously can't be denied. I think it just might peter out basically instead of ending strong.
When did the Switch come out?
March 2017. Yeah,
2017. Okay, so they're only 3 years in here.
Yeah, they've got another 2 to 3 by their own. At least 3 years, I think I saw in an article or two a couple months ago. But like they've never followed up success with success. Not once in their entire, like, if you just go on strictly with console sales. I won't talk about revenue and profits because I have no idea what those are, but strictly on console sales, they've never followed up success with success. From the NES to the SNES to the 64 to the GameCube, all declining. And then finally with the Wii, they shot up like crazy because they struck gold. And then the Wii U was a disaster. And then finally the Switch is seeing quite a lot of success, even compared to some of their more successful consoles.
Well, I think they finally found a formula that works, though, and I think it's incumbent upon them to stick to that formula. And I know they don't like doing that. They don't like doing that, but just iterate on this, because I think the mistakes that they've made in the past is they've made a lot of mistakes. One of them was that I think coming off the N64, they tried to compete head to head with Sony, but they tried to compete
Microsoft the wrong way. Like they didn't just do it. They said, no, we're going to do it our way.
Right.
And use mini discs and use a Fisher Price purple box. And like, I love the purple box, but that's not what people wanted.
Right. Exactly. And so that's what that's exactly what I'm getting at here is they make these odd curveball decisions, and it seems like sometimes they quote unquote innovate for the sake of innovating, and in this case, I think they need to iterate and not innovate.
I think two things stop them every single time, and it's price point on console, which has which is twofold, or really onefold. Well, it's twofold. They don't want the price to be too high, period. And the only way to keep price down is or they don't want price to be too high, and they don't want to take a loss. And so there's two ways you keep price down. It's that you take a loss, and it's a loss leader. And they've just been on record so many times, like, we don't do that. I'm like, why? We just don't. Okay. And then the other thing being you just make it weaker. And they've decided, okay, we'll just make a weaker machine every single time. And I'm like, I just don't see a world where you have one of the most beloved IPs in the entire world in Mario, and then others too, but nothing like Mario. And then if it also ran all of the other third-party games, like, I just don't see how that doesn't work. And people point to the GameCube, but we just got into, like, there was so many other things wrong with that console. Yeah. I don't understand.
That's a really good point. That's something they haven't really tried, like, ever.
Right. And I guess, I don't know. I don't know. Obviously, that might not work anymore with a hybrid idea. Like, now that the hybrid has entered I'm willing to take, a lesser console if it can do both, but still be very, powerful, more powerful than, like, the 3DS or the DS to the 3DS and whatever would have naturally come after that.
Sure.
Anyway, that's enough Nintendo hate for now.
All right.
Some happy news, though, and we kind of predicted this in our, not this actual news point, but we were feeling the vibes, and this was in the conversation last week. Halo Infinite, its multiplayer will be free. There will be no need for the Xbox Gold subscription. That's pretty cool.
I'm stoked.
Yeah. I mean, by then we'll probably have Xbox Ultimate anyway, which comes with Gold, right?
Don't quiz me on their pricing structure, nomenclature. I have no idea.
Anyway, I think it does. I think the highest tier of Xbox Game Pass, I should say that, has Gold. And by the time that this game comes out, I'll probably at least have had it for a month or two, at least to try it out. So it's kind of irrelevant, but it's really cool. It's really nice that that's going to be the case. Xbox, once again, just doing everything they can to try to make people come into their ecosystem.
Yeah, we didn't mention this back when we were talking about the PS5 controllers, but speaking of what you just said, Microsoft went on record the same day that Sony announced, or that I guess maybe, I don't know if they announced it or leaked it or just like said it really quietly, but when Sony was like, hey, by the way, PlayStation 4 controllers won't work for PS5 games, Xbox like tweeted, oh, by the way, our controllers will work, your Xbox One controller will work with everything on Series X.
Right.
Which, kudos, they just keep making all the right moves. And I know it's not for the right reasons. I know it's because they're behind and they want to catch up. But it's just, I don't want to dredge up what we literally just talked about. It's just so frustrating that every time somebody gets into the lead, they just feel like they can totally take advantage of their fan base, the people who got them there.
We need more competition. We need the Ouya to make a comeback. And what else is there? We need Sega to start making consoles again. We need more competition.
Atari. And that's why we're happy to announce that coming in 2022, the never free-to-play machine.
Love it. Oh, dude, speaking of machines, what was it called again? The Analog Pocket? Oh, I want that so bad. It's this cool, go check it out if you haven't seen it. I know I sent a link to Sean, but it's basically a modern handheld. It looks like it's modeled after a Game Boy with a couple extra buttons on it.
It's called a Pocket Analog.
Pocket Analog. And it'll play Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, and a couple other Game Gear, Sega Game Gear, and then some TurboGrafx something or other. It'll play the actual original carts. It does not use emulation of any kind. You can't emulate like a ROM on it. You have to have the cart. But it also does like sound mixing, and you can use Game Boy Maker, which is software that creates Game Boy games, like original Game Boy games. It's sold out immediately. Like the pre-orders went in like a second; they were gone. It was only $200.
It just looks so sleek.
It does. It looks like the only thing. I'm like, $200 is a lot, and like I don't know how it feels in my hands. But I've got old Game Boy games. I could technically have a use for it right out the gate.
Yeah, totally.
So.
Okay, but yeah, Halo multiplayer free. I'm jumping in for sure. Mm-hmm. That sounds like it's right up Tyler in my alley because we love free and we love first-person shooters. So
I have a feeling they're going to break some records when Infinite launches, like concurrency, the number of players playing the game on launch day, something like that, because it's going to be everywhere.
And that's such a cool strategy, and you've kind of seen Call of Duty do this by making Warzone free, but then if you want the campaign and other multiplayer modes, then you have to buy the game. And I think that's such a cool strategy to get people in to your game and your ecosystem and bring their friends and, hey, let's all try this out. And then like, oh yeah, we might want to do this other mode, or there's a co-op campaign, let's play that together or whatever. It's really smart.
Yep. All right. We're going to talk about Sony some more because they had
Topic of the show.
They had a
Pew, pew, pew.
topic of the show is State of Play. Sony had a State of Play today. It was mostly PS4 focused. It was fun. It was stress-free. You know, the last few like events between Xbox and Sony have been like, oh, what's going on? Next gen, price, release date. Ah! But none of that here today. Just games coming out soon. Some for the PS5. We still saw some PS5 footage, which is fun. Dev kit stuff, but still. First thing out the gate, this was modeled after like the Nintendo Direct almost completely. Like, you know how the Directs do the little slideshow thing?
Yeah.
Like when they move from game to game, it did that without the goofy music in between.
I also just wanted to give my high level impressions. I enjoyed. I didn't watch this whole thing, but I kind of skimmed through it right before we started recording. And yeah, this, like you said, this was fun. And honestly, this might have been the most enjoyable showcase of the entire summer. And I think it does tie back to like what you said, because it was so stress free, and you kind of like, they did a really good job of setting expectations. So I was just like, okay, cool. Let's just see what they have. And everything looked pretty decent. So
yeah, I haven't seen people's reactions on it yet because it happened at the end of the work day, and then, you know, pretty busy up until we start recording. So after I watched it, I didn't again touch base with the internet to see how people felt about it. But let's go through the games real quick. Crash Bandicoot 4. I don't think there was a lot new. Nothing that we couldn't have like at least guessed on our own, but it was nice to just see a little more. I think there was a new character. Was it? I can't remember his name. He's a big boy though, so you know I'll love him.
you love the big boys.
I love the big boys. He's a dingo-based character, I think. Dingo Dial, maybe he's like a dingo crocodile. I don't know. He looked cool though. But I just want to point out how weird it is that this in the new Ratchet game has such a similar theme and vibe. With, you know, Crash Bandicoot being like about time and realities and dimensions, and Ratchet being like Rift in time or whatever it is, or Rift in what is it?
It's a crack and rift in time.
Cracked and Rift in time. That's the one.
I think it's a rift apart.
Rift apart. That's right. Anyway, it's like, but it's one of those situations where like, could they have known about the other one? Like, and then potentially like, hey, that's a good idea. Let's do that too. I don't know.
No clue. I don't know what the development cycle on Crash 4 has been. Who knows how long this has been in development.
But yeah, so you'll wear these different masks and suits, and those act as power-ups, and you'll also be able to play as different characters, and I think it adds some variety that was previously missing from the series. Like especially Crash 3 had a lot of stuff where like you might like ride a motorcycle or like be in a scuba suit with like a like kind of propeller system thing underwater, but for the most part it was just always Crash jumping and stuff, which, you know, some platformers can be just super pure and that's all you need, but I feel like it's going to benefit greatly from having these different methods of play and going back and doing levels as different characters and stuff. And most of it looks really good. The art department is doing a fantastic job with this game. They showcased a lot of different levels off just as like from like a aesthetic style, and it looks really cool.
Are you a big Crash fan?
I have some nostalgia for it, but I'm not a huge fan. I probably won't pick this up because it comes out really soon. I think it's early October. And I just don't know where I'm going to be as far as my pocketbook and what games I'm still playing and stuff.
I like that you have a pocketbook. That's
I do. I have
cute.
a pocketbook, a book that goes in my pocket.
It's nice.
With my Pikmin. Anyway, next game, Hitman 3. I'm like, oh, okay, Hitman 3, whatever. I don't play Hitman games and not super interested, but then are like, whoa, Hitman V in VR or Hitman 3 in VR, and it's like, whoa, everyone's like freaking out. That one I did see some takes, and it's all positive because how can you not?
I am so excited.
Yeah.
I don't have a PSVR, but Greg does, so I might have to go to his house and pick this up if it doesn't come to Oculus, because that sounds amazing.
It does. That sounds really, really cool. Because Hitman can be a shooter, at least in moments. You know, you shoot guns at enemies, but for the most part, that's definitely not what it is. And so it seems like, you know, because it's methodical and you take your time, and sometimes there is just a lot of waiting, it's going to benefit nicely. Or VR will benefit nicely from Hitman, I should say, instead of Hitman. Well, they'll benefit from each other. It'll be good. It's a good fit.
Do you ever get like kind of excited when you're sneaking around and you kind of have to poop a little bit?
Are you talking about real life?
No.
Okay. Wait, who's got to poop? I got to poop?
I'm just like, sometimes like, never mind.
Thank you. Please. I don't want, this is not a poop cast.
It's always a poop cast. Sometimes I get the same sensation when I walk in a bookstore.
Oh, I always had to pee in Blockbuster every time, and they didn't have bathrooms. They didn't have bathrooms that you'd have to ask for a key or something. At least the one that I went to. I only went to one growing up. So.
Oh, I know the one too.
Oh yeah, it was ours.
Yeah,
I miss that smell too, man. Tell you what.
I think I've linked it though. I think I've linked my bookstore problem. I think it was because of the coffee shops that are always in the store. I go in and what I thought I was smelling was like new books. Mm-hmm. It's actually just coffee, and that would make me have to go to the bathroom.
Coffee because doesn't do that to me.
Interesting.
Yeah. I think that's why I can drink so much of it.
That's amazing. That's a superpower.
I am amazing. It's true.
Anyway, I want to sneak around in Hitman VR. I'll probably play it on the toilet, and it looks awesome. It sounds awesome.
Next up was Braid Anniversary Edition. I never played the original. Jason never played the original, so we'll move on. Just a touch up on the art, and it looked nice. It was good. Then something that looked very interesting to me: The Pathless. The Pathless. Big open world. You're some sort of hunter person, girl thing. You have a hawk and a bow. And you can dash on the grass and the world around you like super quick. Like you're just like zooming around on the grass like you're a car, but only as long as you're shooting these little talisman thingies. And it was just a really interesting way to get around that world, and the way they incorporated it into the combat and the gameplay. It looked like web slinging, like the idea that, you know, you'd have to shoot your bow at the right time to keep your momentum going was very similar to me with, you know, swinging and flinging your web in Spider-Man to keep that momentum going and increasing. But instead of swinging and flying around, you're just on the ground, speeding around. Although you could jump on the bird too, and it would like kind of fly you up to different locations or fly you over a gap if you were up high. I didn't actually catch what the game's about too much. There were towers.
I don't think they really showed much of what it's about. I wonder how much of it, because like it did seem like the majority of the mechanic was the traversal, aspect of it, and I wonder if it's kind of on rails when you're shooting those things, or how much control do you have of like your movement between those talisman things.
Yeah, it's a good question, because those talismans seemed like they were all over the place, and it seemed like there might be a focus on exploration, because the world looked quite large. It didn't look like it could be on rails, because of like it looked like I could just turn in any direction and just go anywhere I wanted.
I don't necessarily mean on rails, but I mean like, can I walk anywhere I want to, or do I have to shoot that talisman over there, and then I just kind of like magnetically follow the trail that I'm shooting?
Yeah, I'm not sure. They never show the character moving not at top speed, pretty much, so it's hard to say.
Except for in the boss fight, where it did look like you had, more degrees of freedom. It was almost like an arena. Yeah,
it's a chase scene at the beginning, like so that like you do this thing at a tower and something happens, and this cursed spirit, because that is the crux of the game. You're gonna free the cursed spirits or whatever, bring light back to the world. It's just a tagline, really, but everything's on fire all of a sudden. And this big, like, 6-legged antler beast is running through, and you're chasing it, firing arrows at the talismans, firing arrows at the beast, and then at some point, it does kind of circle around, and all of a sudden, you do seem like you're kind of closed off in this ring of fire. But it was pretty. I like the look of it. And I'll definitely just keep my eye open for that one.
Here's what I will say though: this particular art style seems like there are a lot of games pursuing it.
There are.
It kind of reminded me a little bit of that Kena Bridge of Spirits or whatever.
I got a more Windbound vibe. It was more cel shading.
Yeah, exactly. And you've got like Moonlighter. You've got all these games that are kind of going after this kind of more cartoony, not necessarily cel shaded, but definitely not realistic.
They have to give this kind of, it's minimalist. It's a minimalistic art design, and it's because what happens is, so I'll be on the Switch or any other, or even like, Steam or something, and I'm like, I want to check out some like kind of like middle tier game. I don't want a AAA game. I don't want that investment. I don't want a pixel indie game. And then you go looking around, and you're like, they're ugly. It's like they're stuck in a PS2 era kind of look if they try to do anything that resembles anything that might be realistic. And so what you're then kind of forced to do, if you want like a good looking game, but that also that isn't going to like break the bank graphically, is you kind of get this art style. It's like just kind of defaults to it. But I like
suppose.
It. So
it's not bad. It's just it's becoming the indie version of like Fortnite. It's, if you see what I'm saying in terms of the art style.
Yeah, I do.
How everything is gravitating towards the Fortnite art style in that space. It's the same way that in the indie space, people seem to be going after this.
Agreed. So, The Pathless, coming sometime later this year. Okay, so not too far. All right, next game was Spelunky 2. I never played Spelunky 1. I don't even know what it's about. But from the look of this trailer, it's basically like a procedurally generated, maybe roguelike kind of thing, with a focus on maybe. It's weird. At any given point, there might be looks like you're doing a puzzle, but then at the same time, you might move into another room and the character's suddenly moving quickly and you're having to dodge stuff, and so it gets really frantic and hectic. But I liked it. I liked everything about that, and I'll definitely be checking it out if I can. If it comes to Switch, I won't be playing this on my PS4.
This has Switch written all over it.
Yeah, and I don't know if it has any kind of exclusivity, but let's see here. I want to find out, so I'm going to look it up. Spelunky 2. It is coming to PlayStation 4 and Microsoft Windows. So, we'll see. September 15th, though.
Well, if it's coming to... never mind. It won't be on Game Pass.
You never know.
Maybe in 2 years.
All right, next up was Genshin Impact, which I honestly couldn't tell you what this game is. It was anime inspired. It looked well made. The art was good. It didn't look like a lot of anime games can, which is trash. It's just you're not even trying. That is not this game. But I still have no idea what this game is about. So moving on. Did I get the name of this game right? Because I only wrote down Aeon, but it might have had a subtitle.
I'm not sure, because okay. I may have accidentally skipped through that one thinking it was the Genshin Impact.
Maybe. Aeon Must Die? Aeon Must Die, that's what it's called. So this was some sort of side scroller thing, but it looked really really intense. It had this kind of weird cyber alien kind of vibe to it, and your character seems really mad and out for blood in the coolest way. But yeah, it looked cool. That's about all I got for that one. Then something I can't even really pronounce, Anno Mutationem, 2D side-scrolling action game with a futuristic anime vibe. Didn't really grab me. Then we saw some Bugsnax gameplay.
Yeah, baby. Bugsnax.
I don't like that song anymore. I don't want to listen to it. No more. No more Bugsnax.
It's fine, because the game looks pretty cool. I think everybody can get hyped around this being one of the only known PS5 launch games.
Agreed. And so, yeah, you're some kind of journalist. I don't know what you're coming to... the island seems to have fallen on hard times or something similar to that effect. There's a grumpy mayor. And every time you were doing something, it was at the request of somebody. It's hey, could you do this? Get this bug snack in here. Get this bug snack in here.
Isn't that right up your alley? This is why you play JRPGs, is specifically for this type of gameplay loop.
It's not a JRPG. What are you talking about?
I know it's not, but I'm talking about the gameplay loop. Like, these seem like cat finding missions to me. The random, like, oh, hey, townsperson, random townsperson, give me a task. Oh, cool, I'll go do this for you for no particular reason, just out of the kindness of my heart.
Oh, because, The Witcher has so many of those, or doesn't have so many of those. Random herbalist.
No, well, they're not as they're not as dumb. Like, it's like I have to go find the Baron's wife who disappeared in the woods.
That's a lot
cooler.
An important main quest.
Well, I skipped most of the side quests, so I'm not really equipped to have this argument.
That's true. You did. Still coming out holiday 2020. Looks like it's a puzzle game, though. I guess everything's just going to be like, how do I get... maybe there's some kind of like, semi component. Definitely looks like you're going to try to rebuild this island up to its former glory.
And isn't from the original trailer back in the showcase or the PS5 reveal event, it kind of seemed like there was something mysterious going on the island too.
Yes and no. There's like this undercurrent vibe where like you kind of wouldn't be surprised if there was like this weird like 180 where all of a sudden it's like a horror game, but it's not actually. There's nothing in the trailer.
No, not a horror game, but I think there's a mystery to be solved. I think there's a little more substance than what you were describing of like, oh, I'm rebuilding a town for a grumpy mayor.
It could be. That might be why you're the journalist, who's at this place. Like, I don't know. I'm not following it closely because I don't need to, because I'm not getting a PS5 at launch.
You do need to, because this is now where I'm turning it into a Bug Snacks podcast.
Bugs Cast. Snacks Cast.
Snacks. Okay, we'll workshop the name.
Yeah. Next up was another VR game, Vader Immortal.
I've been hearing about this for a while now.
Yes, apparently it has been talked about. It's coming out very soon, August 25th. This is one of those rare times I am jealous I don't have VR, because it's like, here we are. We've got the official licensed Star Wars VR lightsaber game. You're not going to be like doing crazy jumping, flipping stuff, but you're going to have a lightsaber. It showed all kinds of lightsabers and different people clearly holding them, not just Vader. At one point, you're fighting Vader too. And if I'm not mistaken, Vader Immortal is a series of comics that follows Vader during, pre-New Hope stuff, where he's still kind of carving out the Empire, like post taking over. He's quelling dissidents and being a boss, and just killing Jedis and rebels and so on and so forth. So
it also, just to note, it looks like this game, and this is what I thought, it looks like this game's already out on Oculus.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh,
I think it's just coming to PSVR.
Man, I've never heard anybody talk about it.
No, I heard, well, because I'm a little bit more plugged into the VR.
Yeah.
And when I heard Vader Immortal, I was a little thrown off, because I couldn't remember the name of the Star Wars VR title that came to Oculus not that long ago. I think it launched around the time that the Oculus Quest was launched, so it's been out for a while.
Right.
Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, and I'll put it in corrections. But my point is, still cool that it's coming to PSVR. But if you wanted to play it like tomorrow, start driving, and I'll go ahead and get it downloaded.
Perfect. Next up is Control DLC. I think it's the second DLC. I think it's going to be heavy. I don't think the first one was story DLC. This one's definitely going to be story DLC. Subtitled AWE, which is short for Altered World Event, which is a thing in that game. Looks spooky. I think I was a little too hard on that game at first, because there are some very frustrating points. But there are also parts that I probably could have just sidestepped if I wasn't being so stubborn. I think I'm going to buy that game back from my friend, because I was like, hey, because I was just thinking about it earlier this week. I was like, did you play any of that? He's like, no, I never did. I'm like, can I buy it back from you? He's like, yeah, I don't care.
Well, also don't put it, keep it on the table that I kind of want to play this game too. Mm-hmm. So if we get a good deal on it on PC and you're willing to play it there, we can go to Halsey's and get it for like $15 or something.
Yeah.
I think I've seen it on sale as low as $30 on PC.
The only problem with that is I'll have to check out how the DLC works. Like, can I play it separately? Do I need that save? Because I don't want to play necessarily the whole game again.
Oh, yeah.
So,
gotcha. Yeah,
but I still might go in on it.
Loop. But yeah, no, I want to play this too. And I'm trying to decide what my palate cleanser is going to be after I get done with Ghost of Tsushima. Mm-hmm. In between that and Cyberpunk. and I'm between a couple different things, but Control's definitely on that list, as is finishing Final Fantasy VII.
Control's pretty short. If I'm not mistaken, like I didn't do all the side content. I obviously didn't 100% the game either, but I did a lot of the side content, and I still think it was only maybe 20 hours. Maybe. Like, it's probably right in your sweet spot for like, or no, not even. Dude, that still sounds like too much.
Yeah, they're saying 10 to 15. So
that sounds about right.
Yeah, so maybe this is one of the games that I play between Ghost and Cyberpunk.
Not going to go back to Batman?
No, I don't think so. I think you took it away from me, and you gave it to some.
That's true. I did. I took it away from you. And then Auto Chess is coming. I don't know anything about Auto Chess.
Don't tell me about it. You tried to explain it to me earlier.
It was a fad for like a hot minute, and I mean it's its own thing now. It's got its. So
you're
niche,
going to tell me about it anyway?
It didn't. No, I'm just saying. Like all I know is that I don't know anything about it except that some people like to play it. Done.
Okay, great. And there's like robots on a chessboard, and they like have little combat sequences for when you beat each other up.
That's right.
Something.
Then the Pedestrian, which is a puzzle game where you put like these panels on things to basically complete a circuit for this little man to walk through, and it's very like artsy and pleasant to see. But I
love the art style of this because
it's good.
Just for everybody who didn't get a chance to watch the state of play, what you're looking at is like it's like you're on a construction site and it's super bright and vibrant and cartoony and pleasant, like Karch said. But then there might be like a set of blueprints and you're playing a 2D platformer on the blueprints. And it's very, very like stick figure-y, but still kind of cool. And as you traverse off of these like grids, maybe you're on this set of blueprints and you're going from top to bottom. After you get to the top of that, bottom to the top. Once you get to the top, you'll skip to the next scene down, at another part of the city or whatever. And you kind of traverse through, it looked like you traverse through the city as you're going through the platforming pieces of it, the levels of it. And I assume that it gets more complex than what we saw. But I love platformers. And if this one gets decent reviews, it might be something that I check out because it looked really just like refreshing,
Mm-hmm. See, I didn't get the vibe that it was much of a platformer.
Really?
Yeah. Maybe I wasn't paying attention.
I don't know. Maybe I wasn't. Maybe I skipped through too much of it.
I thought it was a puzzle game where you create the platforms the stickman has to walk through.
Well, that could be. Then ignore everything I said. But my point stands that it's super pleasant, and everything I told you about a little stick figure going through a map is true, and I still might pick it up if it looks cool.
There you go. All right, from this moment on, we enter the PS5 portion of State of Play, so they did actually have some titles for PS5. 2 already exist, at least as we knew. I didn't hear about this one up next, though. It's called Hood, Outlaws and Legends. It was mostly a cinematic trailer, but at the end you do see some gameplay, and it's third-person action, mostly melee. It's set in like Middle Ages. They're talking about how like they're rebels and they're taking back what's theirs, but maybe they're not so nice. And it's like, we're all outlaws, but some of us will live to be legends. It was really cheesy and stupid, but it looks like a multiplayer game. It's still not clear. Like I don't know exactly what this game is. So in that sense, it's a bad trailer. But 2021, PS5.
It looks like it's also coming to Steam if it's not already there.
Could be. Like sometimes I'm surprised at how little I know about games that are already out, or at least people have been talking about for a while. Like I know the Pedestrian is a thing I've seen before, but I can't really remember it. Like that Aeon Something Must Die game that's been around for a while. Spelunky 2 has been like in the works for a long time. Anyway. Temtem. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, all I was going to say is that it kind of looked a bit like that Ubisoft game For Honor. A little bit like that.
Yes, it did.
But with like a different like medieval spin on it.
Mm-hmm.
And the combat looked pretty comprehensive. It's not super arcadey. It looked like there's going to be some nuance to it.
Correct.
And there's something like I've never played a PvP game that had nuanced third-person combat.
Mm-hmm.
because but For Honor looked intriguing to me, and this looks intriguing in the same way, and so I might check this one out if I can get someone else to play with me. I could never get anyone to play For Honor with me, despite all the free weekends they had, despite the fact that I think it's been free multiple times. I think it may have even, the base version may have even gone free to play at some point, or at least extremely inexpensive, and I still could never get anybody to play with me.
I downloaded it once because we were going to play, and then we just decided not. Maybe I didn't want to. I don't remember. And then I immediately deleted it.
Yeah. So there you go. Point in case. It's Karch's fault, but this one looks pretty cool, and it does look like there could be stealth elements, which I don't really think exist in For Honor. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm not. I don't want to sit here and say like, oh yeah, I'm pretty stoked, because I'm not like stoked about everything.
Right.
But it looks cool.
It's intriguing. Definitely.
Yeah, intrigued. I'm intrigued. There you go. That's a good word.
Next up was Temtem, that Pokemon knockoff.
You talked about this one a while back.
Yeah, one of our first episodes. It was on my Wish You Were Playing. It's on PC right now. It's on Steam. Came out early this year. And maybe it was in beta before that, or it's in early access now. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, it's a Pokemon clone with a multiplayer component, like a pseudo MMO. Like, yeah, you can probably see other people and play against them, but for the most part, it does still seem to be like it has a heavy focus on just the solo portion of the journey. I know there were a lot of oh, this is a breath of fresh air, but I have like this huge laundry list of complaints, and I'm just curious if they improved those. But it's not come until 2021 on PS5 anyway, and that's weird to me. I'm like, why is it taking so long? I know that 2021 is not that far away.
You have
but
to wonder if it's going to be on PS4 as well, just because it is already out on Steam.
It said PS5.
That stuff like that's strange to me. That's what's going to be so weird about this next gen. Mm-hmm. Like, you're going to have a whole bunch of confused parents.
Maybe depends on how they handle this. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can see it now that there are going to be people who buy their kids a PS5 for a certain game, and they're going to be sorely disappointed, or they're going to go buy a PS4 because it's cheap, and there are going to be games that are already out that get ported that are only PS5. Like, it's, I don't know, between that and like the confusion of the Xbox One X versus the Xbox Series X. Mm-hmm. There's just going to be a lot of confused.
Well, the One X is being sunsetted.
What was there one that was like the Pro?
The One X.
Oh, so they're sunsetting that.
Yeah, they're just going to have because they'll have like the better version of, they'll have the next gen option. They'll let you buy that, and I think they'll let you buy the S. Will be like the cheaper, the previous gen console, which is like.
But that just, honestly, to me, that just opens it up to be even worse.
Agreed.
Because GameStop makes a higher margin on the Xbox One. They make a higher margin on their used hardware, period. Their used software, their used hardware. They make a better margin on that than they do selling stuff new. So, and we know that GameStop's scummy. We know they have... I'm trying to think of the word. They have some questionable tactics when it comes to like their sales tactics and what they push and what they ask their employees to do. And I can just see a world where a GameStop employee tries to convince parents and grandparents to buy the Xbox One X because, well, all the games are cross-gen compatible. There's no reason to pay more for this Series X. Mm-hmm. And they're making a higher margin on it. I don't know. I just foresee this being confusing to people who aren't in the know.
Agreed. I mean, I'm confused, so.
Well, we're always confused, right?
Yeah. All right. Last game was Godfall. They're really pushing this one. It's going to be, they're going to be buddy-buddy with this game for a while, I imagine. We got to see a combat overview. Looks sharp. It's a good-looking game. It's definitely using a lot of the fun stuff that the PS5 has to offer graphically. The guy talking definitely called it a looter slasher. Those were his words. That's what they want. He
made it seem like it was a new, like he literally said, "We think this is a new genre."
Yeah, I'm not going to put a lot of stock in those kinds of things.
Well, no, of course that's marketing, but I think his point is in the same way that we have looter shooters, like this is a third-person action game that puts the same emphasis on that. And I think their goal is probably going to be to make it a little more accessible than something like Monster Hunter.
Yeah. I mean, you keep comparing it to Monster Hunter. I don't really get Monster Hunter vibes as someone who's played a lot of Monster Hunter. I could be totally wrong, but I just don't feel it.
More the loot component and the grind component than the actual mechanics.
Maybe the grind, but again, Monster Hunter doesn't really have loot like Destiny or any of those looter shooters do. Those like enemies die or you finish a thing, you get a chest, it has a weapon in it. In Monster Hunter, it's like you get pieces of stuff and then you craft it later on your own. And yes, that's technically a looter slasher at that point.
Well, so like Dauntless kind of then iterated on that, and it is very much when you kill these enemies, you do get this loot that's got different specs or whatever, and you have to figure out what's going to be best for your build and what's going to correlate better with your class and your skills that you're using and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
So I don't know. I guess maybe that's me drawing this false comparison or this line between Monster Hunter and Dauntless and Godfall. But
sounds like there is a through line from Monster Hunter to Godfall. But
sure.
Yeah, third person action looks pretty good. It's God of War-esque, but a little bit faster. So sometimes you see people like, oh, it's like Souls. I'm like, no, it's not Souls at all. There's no Souls in here at all. Don't.
I don't think so. To me, it looked like God of War Light. Like it looked like it had some aspects of that combat system, but at the same time, it was a little more forgiving.
Right. You called that Hood game. You called it comprehensive. I thought that was a good word to describe Hood. This is not that. This is definitely going to be like dodge, block, and attack. Like obviously it'll be a little bit more nuanced than that, but like there's not going to be like a lot of interaction with the enemies. You know, you're just going to take damage or deal damage.
Right. Which makes sense because so this game comes from Counterplay Games, which I think I'm looking it up. They've only made one other game that I see. I've never heard of it. Duelist in 2016, but it's published by Gearbox, and so I immediately think Borderlands.
Sure,
and that is so. To me, a Borderlands design philosophy of like you're either dealing damage or taking damage.
Right.
There's not a lot of nuance in the shooting, and there's not a cover system. You know, it's you are dealing damage or you are taking damage. And then there's that loot system, which is addicting. And that's, to me, what I feel like the vibe and the design philosophy that I feel behind Godfall is very much draws on Monster Hunter, draws on God of War a little tiny bit, at least an aesthetic of the combat, and then draws on Borderlands from that loot component.
Yep, for sure. You can play it solo or online co-op with up to 2 other people. So your party would always be 3 people big. So very Destiny in that regard. Because Destiny, you can play the whole thing by yourself, but parties don't get bigger than 3, except for the highest end. I don't know if they call them raids or something else, but the highest end content, I believe, has 6 people in like any given encounter. These are quotes from this guy. No microtransactions and no waiting for content, all available day one. So take that with whatever grain of salt you want, but those are what they're saying. We'll see.
Didn't they say the same thing about Borderlands, and then they kind of got caught in a weird little marketing?
Like Randy Pitchford said it and then got really upset when people called him out, because I think when he said no microtransactions, what he literally meant was no loot boxes. And that was true, but there was still like cosmetic microtransactions.
Right.
So I don't know how, if they would have had to have learned from that mistake. You would assume, to get on Sony's stage, essentially their digital stage, and be like, oh, let's make the same mistake again. Because this wasn't Gearbox talking to us. This was somebody at, what was it again?
Counterplay Games.
Yeah. Also, Duelist is a card game, by the way, that game you mentioned. So this is, It's always interesting. This is happening so much more, or we're just more cognizant of the people making the games. But so many people are just like, yep, it's our turn to make a really big, we're shooting for the stars kind of thing.
It's really cool that the publishers or whomever, whoever's financing it's giving them the freedom to do it, and they trust the team to do that.
Yeah. I think in this case, assuming they're not already owned by Gearbox or anything like that, which I don't think they are, I think this might have been more of a like, hey, we have this idea, and then they pitched it, and then those people are like, yep, we believe in that, we'll do that.
Sure, yeah. Well, let's hope it doesn't come back to bite them like Battleborn, because that's another one where it seemed like Battleborn had, it looked decent, and
it won't unless it plays poorly, and it's got to be, the game has to be designed well enough. It can't be like Anthem bad, obviously, but like it's going to be one of the few launch window-ish titles on PS5 like that looks this good and has more than 20 hours worth of content. It's clearly going to persist beyond, the first few initial months. So, and while there are looter shooters and looter games out there like this, it is pretty unique. There's nothing quite like what they're describing, at least. We'll have to see exactly what it pans out to, but I don't think they're going to fall on their face unless it's just a terrible game to play.
Well, let's hope not, because I'm looking forward to it.
Yep. It's weird. It's this weird combination of both, like, this couldn't look more generic, and yet at the same time it looks kind of like new and fresh. It's weird.
Yeah, I'm with you. But I think I want to check it out if I have the opportunity.
Once we get our PS5s, we'll take a look.
For sure.
All right, that was the state of play. That's a lot of games that we could potentially play in the future. Jason, what's out though right now that you wish you were playing?
So right now, what I kind of, there's so many great games. What I wish I had time to play right now is that they, I think pretty recently, a Destroy All Humans Remaster came out.
I think it was last week.
Yeah, and that sounds really cool. And I was watching like some gameplay in the trailers. I got this like Ratchet and Clank vibe from it. It's cartoony, it's funny, the dialogue, it's campy. It definitely knows the tropes of like the alien coming to destroy the universe genre. It's not as dark as something like, say, like Invader Zim, but you definitely get this vibe of like just super self-aware, right? It's third-person action like shooter, and it looked like you had different weapons, like these alien weapons that you unlocked to help you destroy all humans, and you're just going through the city causing chaos, setting people on fire, being in your little flying saucer, setting this parts of the city on fire, fighting tanks, that sort of thing, but all the while just basically causing mischief. And I don't know, it just looked really like a fun, goofy time, like a third person action smarter version of Rampage, if you remember that game.
I was just thinking about Rampage earlier this week, and I was like, I should tell Jason to remember Rampage, because that was such a dumb game, but like
it was such a dumb game. It was so fun to sit there and play that with your friends, and that's I didn't get like a Rampage vibe. Like it looked a little more, like a little less arcadey, I should say, a little more narrative focused. But it looked cool. So that's one that I wish that I had the time to play, and that I probably just will never get the time to play. And then the other one, I
take it you never played the original?
No. Have you?
No, never.
No. The other one is actually one that I have access to through your Switch account, but Baba Is You. It's a puzzle game. And every once in a while, I get the itch to play a puzzle game, like something like Human Resource Machine, or something like that, like a smart, just different type of puzzle game. Mm-hmm. And Baba Is You is definitely that.
It is. Dude, do play it. Download it. It'll take 2 seconds, and it's just one of those, it's really easy to stop playing. It's like, this is too hard. I'm out. Bye.
Yeah, and I think that's one I could probably get Lauren to play with me too, because it's not, she's got vertigo, so she literally can't even be in the room with me when I'm playing anything that's in 3D, but something like Baba Is You, it's just, she could help me. Like, she would enjoy that, because it takes wits, and you could sit there and be like, oh, I need to change this to this, and that's how I, beat the puzzle or whatever. And
right.
Anyway, it looked really cool. So
what reminded you that this existed? Like what made you think of it?
I don't know. I was just thinking of what I was in the mood to play, and I was like, oh, puzzle game, and I remember you telling me about this one, and I remember you telling me that you owned it, and I was like, oh, that'd be cool if I get some time where I'm like not playing Ghost of Tsushima, maybe I'll check it out. Maybe it's and also I wanted something on the Switch, so
sure. Yeah, I strongly suggest it to anybody who's ever even considered that they might like a puzzle game, let alone.
Can you explain it a little bit more? Because I'm my memory is failing me a little bit on the trailer that I watched. But you have like these blocks.
So you have nouns and verbs. And basically, so Baba is you is like the name of the game, but also the entire premise behind it. Baba is this cute little way to refer to the thing that you usually control, because you control different things, and it's a sheep. Baba, haha, ba. And it is you, the player. So that when something is you, you can control it. And almost every level starts out with Baba is you. So you're moving Baba around. Baba can then move these blocks, and something like stone is block. And so what that means is the stone is blocking you. It can't be passed through. And so if Baba went up to so that would be 3 blocks that comprise that phrase, the stone is block. If Baba went up to it and you moved it so it broke it up and stone is no longer block, you can now walk through stone. And then there's always a flag, and you want to get to the flag. And that's how you win, because flag is almost always win. And that's the other thing. Something like flag is win, you can change the win condition to where like Baba is you and is win. And so like immediately you beat the game if you create a scenario in which you've changed the logic to be both Baba is you and is win, because now you are win.
It's to me, awesome. It's such a smart, it's just so creative.
And it teaches you the game. Obviously there's like the first 2 levels are just like baby's first tutorial, but like the way that it continues to I'm stuck at a certain part, but like I'm like a little bit more than halfway through the game, and like every few levels they add a completely new idea. Like at one point they added floating and water and melting and burning and like it's crazy. It's crazy good.
That's so cool. That's exactly how Human Resource Machine is, and I really enjoyed that game. I didn't quite beat it, but I got pretty close. I think I started losing it on like the Fibonacci code, where you had to like make the thing generate the Fibonacci sequence, and I was just like, I can't do this.
That's easy though.
Shut up.
It's just
you missed
slow.
A programmer.
It's just the number plus the other number before it.
Okay, well, but the thing is have you ever played Human Resource Machine?
No, I haven't.
Because you're so limited on your commands of what you can do.
I see. Okay.
So that's the trick, is like you're trying to do a very, very primitive programming language with like 4 commands. So, anyway. But hey, I have that on my Switch. I think you would enjoy that. If you like Baba Is You, I would check out.
Perfect. We'll swap it out.
Yeah, totally. What about you? What do you wish you were playing?
A lot of stuff. I wish I was playing Bug Fables. It's just kind of sitting there in the back of my mind. I think about it like a couple times a week. Either I see something on Twitter and I'm just like, Bug Fables.
I'm just imagining you like taking a shower, just like sitting there with they're just like staring blankly at the wall where the water like just pours on your face, and you're contemplating your whole life and every decision you ever made, and you're just like, Bug Fables.
Bug Fables.
Thinking about Bug Fables.
Something an everlasting sapling. It's like the subtitle. But no, part of that's because there's a lot of Paper Mario media out, and that's the indie version of that game. That's the one we all wanted. The 1,000-year-old door spiritual successor. But speaking of Paper Mario, I also wish I was playing Paper Mario, because I watched a really cool video by King K. He's one of my favorite like long form analyst YouTube gamer video persons.
Friend of the show.
Friend of the show, King K. And the whole thing was spoiled for me. Like he doesn't, and it's not like it was an accident, but like I went in, and I think I needed that. I think I needed to see what this game was from beginning to end. Like it was still high level stuff, but key plot points are spoiled. So don't go find King K's video if you don't want the game spoiled. But like, he titled the video like "Learning to Love Paper Mario and the Origami King," and it's still not exactly what I want. But they're never going to do that again. So it is kind of like, all right, let's try this out. If this is the new Paper Mario and it's this good and it only gets better from here, I'm willing to try this out at some point and see what it's like, because other people who had some like less than stellar impressions like 2 weeks ago, who've been slowly moving through it, are starting like, no, the combat gets a little bit better and the puzzles get better and the writing is top notch and it's really cute and funny and all that kind of stuff.
And that's the problem with this like knee-jerk reaction culture of like your first impression is the impression of the whole body of work. I don't think that's fair, personally.
Isn't that what you do though? You play like 2 hours and you get bored and you don't want to play anymore?
Yeah, that is what I do. But then I don't go on the internet and tell everyone else not to do that.
That's true. You're not reviewing games and whatnot.
I mean, I'll give you my impressions, but it's always going to be in the context of I'm never going to make it seem like I play the entire thing. And
right.
You know what I mean? And I don't think people do that intentionally. I think it's just like there's always going to be the race to get the content out there, unfortunately. And especially when you live in a world where some content creators have early access and some don't, well, you know, they're going to play as much as they can play before they need to get that video out to give you their impressions. Meanwhile, other content creators have had it for, 2 weeks and they've beaten it. So, I mean, some of that's incumbent upon you as a consumer to understand where people are coming from when you are reading and watching their impressions. But at the same time, I don't know, like you have a responsibility if people are listening to you and for your guidance and opinion to at least temper it with, this is so far. This is what I've played so far.
Right.
So.
Agreed. It's silly that we can't slow down, but sometimes you can. Like stuff comes out at a breakneck pace, even when the entire world is quote unquote shut down. But next game, I don't know how much I really want to play it, but have you heard of Fall Guys? Have you seen what this is?
It looks like you're trying to run through a pinball machine and you're racing 60 other people.
Basically, it's Ninja Warrior meets super colorful, cute stuff meets, quote unquote battle royale. So Ninja Warrior is usually like one or two people, maybe. I don't. The various versions of the show, it's usually one person running the gauntlet, and you try to do the best time. It's those kind of zany, like, pendulum swingings and jump, like little small but difficult jumps. And
speaking of which, if you want a good background TV show for sorry, I did not mean to cut you off here, but the other night Lauren and I were playing Scrabble and we were just like, we need something we can totally and completely ignore, but while the other person's taking 10 minutes to figure out what word they're going to write, we can glance at the screen and it will still be interesting to watch. So we put on Netflix The Floor is Lava.
Yeah.
And it is like a crappy version of Ninja Warrior where normal people have to do it.
Gotcha.
And it's super, super wholesome, super fun to watch.
Yeah. And that's what this game is. It's super wholesome. The Twitter is a bit annoying. Like it's a bit too like saccharine and sweet and like, what do we got to do to get you to partner with a Cyber what's CD Projekt Red. That's the one I was looking for. I know, I ruined the bit. Anyway, but no, it is fun. It looks fun. There's different modes. It might be on Game Pass. I don't know. We should check it out, though.
If it's on Game Pass, I'll check it out. Otherwise, I'm not touching this with a 10-foot pole.
Just be like everybody else. Oh, yeah, I'm never going to pay for it because then I just play it for 4 seconds and drop it. And then finally, I was getting technically, I was getting Advance Wars pangs, and like I was missing Advance Wars, but because I can't play Advance Wars easily, I'd have to dig it up out of the ROM from somewhere and
you
emulate it
could
somewhere.
If you had the thing,
but I don't have the cart
yet.
Well, I could go buy it. Yeah, I could just start
analog, man.
Yeah. But so because I can't play Advance Wars, I want to play Wargroove. There was an update that came out. They balanced some stuff, added some new like captains that the captains are like the super units that start off in the battle and they have like superpowers beyond the regular units, and they're a lot stronger and all that stuff. But I never finished it, and it wasn't bad. It wasn't. Advance Wars has always been a tedious kind of series. Like you could go 20 to 40 minutes in a match and then lose, and then it's like ooh, and like and you can't do anything except start over. Kind of like in Fire Emblem when you would like lose your favorite unit and you had to like start the whole thing over. If you
I've done that, yeah.
Advanced Wars doesn't have like personalized units. It just has victory conditions. So it's a tedious game, but it's a really good game. It had a really strong foundation, and you wanted to win, and so you would swallow it, swallow that loss and try again. Wargroove just isn't quite as good as Advanced Wars, and so like when you do lose that 40-minute match, you're kind of like, I never want to play this game again.
That's how the Switch has sold so many units. It's just by putting games like this on their console, and people will throw the Switch across the room.
Yeah, it does have a multiplayer, like you can play people online, and up until recently it didn't have crossplay, and in this update it does have crossplay, so that'll breathe some life into it. Not that I'm going to touch that, because I'm sure I would just get stomped, but
Didn't they also have like a co-op mode where you could play together?
Dude, this game has a lot of really cool stuff. You can make your own campaigns. Like, you can make your own levels and own campaigns and just throw that stuff up. Like, it's Mario Maker, but for Wargroove, essentially.
That's cool, yeah.
And it's just such a niche kind of thing. And again, like, in such a niche thing where people have been hungry for a very specific type of game, and then it just didn't hit quite the right way. Those people weren't there to, like, bang the drum, to, like, really make people who might not have been interested, like you, maybe. Because did you play the original ones, the Advanced Wars, I mean?
No.
Okay. Well, then never mind. You probably wouldn't have played this ever.
Because I didn't have a Game Boy Advanced, and so...
Dude, I'm so sorry for you. That is one of my favorite consoles.
Hey, don't feel that bad for me. I eventually got a Game Boy SP. But Greg had a Game Boy Advance, like, the year they came out, and I didn't get one until, like, 2 years after the SP came out.
Gotcha.
So, don't feel bad for me.
I feel bad for you.
Don't.
I pity you, poor Jason. All right. Oh, this is a long episode.
You're a long episode.
I am. Jason, what did you finally roll credits on?
I did it!
Yeah!
I feel so accomplished. I beat The Last of Us Part 2. Oh, thank you.
How does it feel?
It feels amazing. Like, I don't get this sense of accomplishment often because I don't often beat games. And so it is rare when I actually roll credits on a game. And this is one that I'm so proud to say that I beat. And I can't wait to give my full impressions on it on our spoiler cast. But high level, I think I liked it more than most people did. And I feel bad that this game was so tainted from the start for so many people with the spoilers and just the bad publicity. And I don't want to get too far into that because I want to save that discussion for the spoiler cast. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really good game. I thought it lived up to the Naughty Dog standard. I think I probably like this game better than Uncharted 4. So there, I said it. I don't think it's as good as The Last of Us Part 1. But I thought it was a very good game, and I'm excited to talk more about it on our spoiler cast, which hopefully, I think it'll happen in the next week. I gotta buckle down and do the most. Yeah, we'll see how busy I am tomorrow, and see if I can get some time to finish out the what do you call that thing? Plot summary, because no one has a plot, like a full plot summary out there, so I'm having to like comb through guides and cutscenes and kind of make my own. So
yeah, it's going to be an interesting one because like we are pretty much on the same foot with the first one. Like we both, I mean, you probably liked it a little bit more than me, but I mostly enjoyed it with no major reservations, and where we did have some reservations, it was pretty similar, but we definitely have different opinions about. We both liked it, but we definitely have different opinions about this game.
Yeah, I'm excited. So
it'll be fun.
What about you, Karch? What have you been playing?
Played a little bit more Ghost of Tsushima. It's going to be a slow burn for me. Like I still have barely scratched the surface of the story, and it's like the classic, I've become one of those people like, oh, I'm just doing side quests because it's just like it's fun and easy. Like
so you're enjoying it.
I am enjoying this game. The thing I like most about this is that it's not overwhelming. I don't usually like open world games because some part of it is overwhelming and I just don't want to deal with it. And so I end up quitting very early on.
Yeah. I played some Ghost of Tsushima too, and I would echo what you say about that, because I heard, I think it was maybe Chris Reagan that he said this, but in an Ubisoft game, when you climb up to the top of a tower and then you will see every single thing on the map that can be done.
Yeah.
That is overwhelming. And you're just like, gosh, that to me, like that type of presentation, like for me, it kind of makes me want, like, or at least it pushes me to critical pathing a game.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm just like, oh, I'm so overwhelmed. I don't know what to do. And and a lot of times in those types of games, for whatever reason, maybe it's the world building, I don't know what it is, but like, I don't tend to enjoy myself enough to want to explore the world. And this, maybe it's just because they hide more of it from you. And now it's a curiosity. Like, I want to go see what is over there. Right. And then you discover. And like, that to me is a better way to do it. But that's a difference in design philosophy. But I appreciated that for sure.
Yep. It's already become too easy. Like, and not in a bad way. I don't mind that it's too easy. It's the kind of game you want to feel strong and powerful in. But like, for the most part, I do the samurai thing. So like, I might sneak in initially and sneak in between, because like, thankfully an encounter doesn't usually draw the entire camp to you, because I kind of hate that. Like, all right, sure, in this radius there might be like 5 or 6 guys and they all come at me, but I killed them. Nobody blew a horn and got on an intercom and called the entire camp to come bum rush me.
I do really dislike that in a lot of games.
Yeah, it's stupid. And so it allows you to really mix and match, like, even in any given, like, Mongol camp or whatever territory they've taken over. Allows you to mix and match the ghost with the samurai, the assassination with the sword combat, and I really enjoy that. I'm just too strong. Not too strong, but like, they're just, you parry, you attack, you just don't get overwhelmed. There's some very key like principles that you just keep in mind, and you will have an easy time with this game. And especially if you're running around doing those little side contents, you'll get more health, you'll get more resolve, you'll get better stuff to make your stuff better. And one thing I did get that I love is one of the charms I found. It's a major charm, so it's got that like gold color. Every time I pick something up, like a resource, it gives me more of it too. So I get like maybe 50% of it in addition to what I picked up, and it's making upgrading a lot easier, and it's nice.
Ooh, that's nice.
It is.
Quality of life stuff is really nice in this. Like, I understand it from an immersion standpoint, but like in Far Cry 5 or in Red Dead Redemption 2, when you're like gonna go, or even Horizon, where you're gonna like skin a fox to get the skin, you have to watch the stupid animation of you skinning a fox, and then you've got to do that every single time you skin any animal. And then you just end up watching the exact same animation over and over and over and over and over and over and over. I don't think that adds to immersion. In this game, even if you're on a horse, you can like run by a flower and then pick it up. And
awesome.
There's no animation for it. You just pick it up. I'm like, okay, cool. This is a video game. Like, I understand world building and immersion, but like, that doesn't break immersion. Like, that keeps me engaged in the other things that are more important about the world.
Right.
So I appreciate that. I like how quickly you move when crouched, unless you're stealthing.
It's so fast. It's great.
Oh, I love it, dude. It like, how short of a game do you think The Last of Us Part 2 would have been if you could move this fast when crouching?
And yeah, without having to upgrade like that entire tree. It's crazy.
Which I didn't do because
neither.
I just, I focused on other things that I needed for staying alive in combat,
Mm-hmm.
But like, the other thing is I did have the difficulty turned down on The Last of Us Part 2. So this, I don't think this is a bad faith argument, but it's just an observation. Like, in The Last of Us Part 2, it seemed like even when I was at the default difficulty, if I were to like say be crouched, but then I jumped, but I was still crouched, that seemed to be okay. Like, as long as I was crouched, for the most part, I'm hidden from enemies, independently of what I'm doing. In this game, that is not the case. Like, if you are crouched, but then like say you jump or you run, like, I don't know, running through a branch or something like that, you alert enemies, which is, it's just interesting, and I liked that aspect of it.
Yeah.
So
you lose them a lot quicker too, though.
Yep, that's true. Yeah.
which a lot of people like people are like, oh, the AI is terrible. I haven't found bad AI. What I found is a game that has stealth that isn't like trying to revolutionize the stealth genre, basically,
right.
which is fine by me because I'm not a super stealth guy for the most part. I am really enjoying doing the sword fighting, so I'll like I said, I'll kill a couple people here and there when it feels fun to do, because it is fun to jump off a roof and stab a dude. But totally. Aside from that, I like to do the sword combat. Anytime I'm like running in the hills on my horse, if I get that standoff button, bam, I smash it, because I just got the ability where I can do 2 more people in a standoff, and it's so much fun.
Yeah. You also, you're just an honorable dude, so I think you probably just don't like using the stealth unless you have to, because you don't want to dishonor your family like that.
Exactly. I'm Lord Sakai. Blah, 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 blah.
One thing I will say is, while the map is super nice, so that it's interesting. This is like a dichotomy I've noticed. The user interface so clean. I love the stark contrast between when you pause it and you get that like white gradient that's got some gray in there. Mm-hmm. It is like beautiful and clean and stark,
and it moves fast. It's not a map. It's like the menu does not get you bogged down like some menus can.
Right, and the maps like that. Mm-hmm. Like, you can tell this is what Sucker Punch was going for. Like, the map is clean, the UI that your HUD is clean.
Yep.
Everything about it's like very organic. But then at the same time, the skill tree, it's so overwhelming to me because, and maybe it's just me, but you're going to start getting points more, and it's not going to seem so overwhelming. Okay, good. Because right now I'm seeing it. You've got like the samurai skill tree, you've got stances, you've got ghost, you've got exploration, you have subcategories of each of those, and then there's an entirely different section for gear upgrades. So I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so much to manage when all I want to do is go out there and sword fight and stealth and kill.
Yeah. You give it a good look, go through them and see like what each one is, or what areas kind of interest you, and then it's not something you have to manage. It's just something that's going to make you stronger at the things that you want to be stronger at, but you're not going to be like, you won't have a broken build,
Sure. Okay. Well, I mean, I'm not too concerned about it, but I do tend to min-max things. And so sometimes I do get a little bit overwhelmed of like, well, how am I going to play this game? Well, if I go down this path, but then I change my mind, then I'm going to be screwed and I won't be able to do this. I won't be able to stealth, or I won't be able to fight as well. So I do kind of psych myself out in that regard.
Right.
It is kind of nice when you play certain games that like, I hate to always talk about Skyrim, but Skyrim rewards you for the playstyle that you're currently using. Mm-hmm. You get points. Like if you stealth, you get points for stealth. And so that helps to like guide you in how you're going to upgrade. Whereas this just gives you all these options and you kind of have to plan your path, and it just seems a little more overwhelming.
Yeah. But I wonder, I do wish that choosing one of not that you would get locked in necessarily, but like I wish choosing to be a samurai more often or assassinating people like had some sort of outward effect, like even if it was small or minor.
Sure.
But it doesn't, because like early on, like when he learns to be the assassin, the ghost, it's like, my honor. And then because I haven't dove into the story yet, maybe this does get brought up. Like, or at least he might have like conversations or internal monologue or whatever. But like it was like a 4-second, like, that was hard, but now I'm over it.
Right.
Because he has to do it for his country, is for his people, which is fine. But
yeah, the first time you stealth kill somebody, it is like the most intense, like, holy cow, this would be what it was like if you'd really snuck up on somebody and stabbed him in the neck. And then every time after that, it's like, no, this is a video game.
Exactly. And it needs to be, because like you can upgrade, I think it's called a tanto, the knife, the smaller blade that does the stabbing. And part of the upgrade is both the damage it'll do, because some enemies won't go down in one assassination, but also the speed of which you do it. And I'm like, I need that now, because even this is taking too long.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to talk about is they added a lethal difficulty. which I think is very interesting. And basically what that is a one-hit kill for both you and the enemy. So if you are like, I'm pretty sure maybe even like there's these like kind of like boss duels, kind of like what you did with that guy on that bridge, but not like scripted.
Yeah.
But basic, I don't know if it applies to those things, but every other thing, like you will die in one hit flat out, but they will die in one hit too.
Holy
and so
cow.
like when what I'm hearing, it adds quite like, and you can turn it on and then turn it off. If you don't like it, it's not one of those you have to start the save like that or anything. But like you can, like, it just really makes you think and utilize, again, from what I've heard. I haven't tried it myself, but I plan to. But it really makes you utilize the tools that you have at your disposal instead of just kind of sitting in there holding the parry button until it's time to Counter-Strike and all that stuff.
I think that would be really fun to play on that mode with like the black and white cinema.
Yes.
Turned on.
Have you tried that out?
No.
The Kurosawa? It's
not.
good. It muffles the sound too. Which
is the lip sync any better in that mode or no?
I doubt it.
For the Japanese specifically. I doubt it. Yeah. Okay. I got one more to talk about.
Let's hear it.
Tyler and I know I just sat here and I literally 5 minutes ago, I was like, you have a responsibility to your audience to like tell, not give them impressions of games in a bad way that paints a negative, like you have to be fully transparent. Yeah, totally. I quit Borderlands 3 last night.
I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you, Jason. You stopped playing a game. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. I know it's rare for me. So Tyler and I, full disclosure, I think we put about 5 or 6 hours into this game. It just wasn't jiving with us. It is very much like what we were talking about of like, you're either dealing damage or taking damage. There's not a lot of nuance to the shooting. There's not a lot of agency in the way that you approach situations. It is very much a grind, and yeah, sure, that's what Borderlands is. It's just not for us.
Right.
I think, especially because like we weren't trying to critical path. Like we did every side mission on the first planet, but then we got back to that stupid hub world ship, and then it sent us on a main mission, and we were like, oh, cool. Like we did every single side mission on that first planet. We should be good to go do the next main mission. And like we're level, I think 13 or we're 14. And as we're going through this mission, like the enemies start out level 12, but this mission is taking us like an hour and a half. And by the end of it, and there aren't breaks, there aren't places where you can get off. There's not an off ramp where you can go do other side quests. By the end of it, we're finding things that are like level 16, 17 that we can't even touch. And we're just dying over and over and over and over and over. And I'm just like, so what are we supposed to do? Stop this and go find some other side quest that we probably should have known about before we came into here. And there's a lot of enjoyable parts to the game, but we're just having a hard time figuring out what the loop is. And I think we're just kind of done with it because at the end of the day, like the grind is fun and the upgrades are fun, but like the actual mechanics of it aren't that fun. like the idea of making your build, of upgrading your character, of filling out your skill tree, of figuring out like what your special abilities and how you're going to equip them, of what guns, what's your loadout going to be, how are you going to upgrade those, what's your armor situation. All of that part is fun, but playing the actual game isn't that fun. Like the actual shooting, the actual traversing, that part of it, not that fun. You're holding down a shoot button and then you're throwing the occasional grenade and you're just trying to stay out of like bullet hell essentially. And that's it. So, I mean, maybe it gets different, but I just can't see it. I can't not see it getting much different. And like I said, we're 6 hours in. And I think we're going to move on to something else. So,
yeah, I quit something too.
What'd you quit?
Panzer Paladin.
You quit it?
Well, I got mad at it.
What happened?
So, like, it's modeled after an old-timey game.
Old-timey?
Old-timey. NES days.
Ataki?
Old-take. So, often you would go through, like, the stock stages that you would see in a game, and then you'd get to the end, and the end would just be like a gauntlet. Not like a boss gauntlet necessarily, but it would just be like, hey, you've probably only got one life left. We're going to make sure that you lose it. That kind of situation.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's several levels kind of strung together, all about the same length of any other given stage. And I guess I just thought I would be able to come back to the point I was, but I can't. I have to start over at the beginning. And so like I was
the very beginning of the whole game.
No, not the whole game. So there's like 8 stages, and then once you beat them all, a final stage is like becomes available.
Gotcha.
And so like I don't think I died. I think I was done, but I knew that Juliet was going to want to play Harvest Moon or Story of Seasons the next day, and so I was like, I just closed it out. And then I was like, oh, wait, let me go back in there. And then sure enough, when I went in, I could select that stage, but it started me over from the beginning. And there are bosses at the end of each of those, and like it's when the game finally starts to get a little bit more difficult. And I was like, I don't want to do that. And so I might uninstall it out of spite. We'll see.
You know what? I think you played enough of it to say that you basically beat it, because you're pretty much where I was with Shovel Knight. And I was on the very last level of Shovel Knight. So the second to last level of Shovel Knight, you have to beat like 10 bosses in a row. And then like the final level, I don't even remember what it is, but I was just like, I felt so accomplished having beat that insane like gauntlet of bosses that I was just like, you know what? Drop the mic. I beat this game essentially. I know what this game's about.
I've done that a few times on some things.
So I claim it too. Like I didn't roll credits, but come on. If I put in the time, I did the thing, I beat the hardest parts. I just don't want to have to get good again and go back and beat it.
Yeah. It's just, it's a good game. It's not a great game. And there's, like I said, there's more modes to it. I talked about it a week or two ago. Like it's got a remix mode that's basically probably the main campaign remixed. I don't know what that means, but it's probably different enough, maybe a little harder or something. But I wish there was just a little bit more something to the whole like weapons theme. Like it's cool, like, you know, some enemies have like a shield and they'll put it up and down and you have to strike high and low, and it's kind of like this little duel. And they're not going for super complicated. They're trying to mimic an NES style, you know, era game. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know. I feel like you could have done something else, whatever that might have been. And it's a clunky platformer. You know, you're playing this giant mech. He does not move quick. I like quicker moving platformers.
And that's on purpose to an extent.
Oh, for like, it's completely on purpose. It's very Mega Man. Like if you know how Mega Man moves back in the day, that's how he moves.
Could never get into that.
Me neither. I'm bad at it. Any
honorable mentions this week?
Yeah. I started Chrono Trigger on my SNES Classic, which is not a base game. That's not a game that comes with that. I did put that on there, you know, through other means. But I put it on the big TV because I was like, I want to play something on the big TV. I'll play 20-plus-year-old game.
Right. That's going to look great.
It did. It looks good. It looks pretty good on it. So I was thinking about not streaming, but like recording like a finally plays of this one eventually. But I'll just play it now, and I'll kind of chip away at it whenever I have some time.
You'd either have to play it on PC or get a capture card, I guess.
Yeah, and everyone hates the PC version, so the few people that would be willing to click on the video will be like, "This is terrible. You should play the other one." And I'll be like, "I know, but like, come on, man."
Yeah, what do you expect me to do? Buy a $120 capture card so that 4 people can watch me play this game?
And I started World of Final Fantasy, and it's fun, but good lord, sometimes you just gotta wonder why they make some decisions like this one character. It's this cute little foxy squirrel thing.
Sounds foxy.
It's not that kind of foxy.
Okay.
It's supposed to be like your guide. And it's like the Meowth of the group.
Oh, no.
And
let's get it away from me.
And it's so overly cute. Like it inserts the word "the" before things it says. So like, I'm just gonna try to do this the right way. What if the Karch talked about the things that? No, I can't. You can't do it naturally because it's demonic the way that they make this thing talk. And not in the traditional sense of the word. And it's like, it's so juvenile. Like, nobody actually thinks this is fun. They're either crazy people or they think that that's cute because they're supposed to think that it's cute. And because like the main characters are cheesy, but they're funny. They're a brother and sister. They're twins, and their memories like all messed up, and they don't remember who they are or why they have these abilities. But they're like really, and like the brother's an idiot, and the sister's like, I'm older by 10 seconds. That whole dynamic, and it's a really fun dynamic. They have chemistry, and they're voiced very well. They don't talk like idiots. And then you get to the Final Fantasy worlds, and it's like, there's, like it's fun, and the combat's decent. It's like, I just hate this other character so much. I want her to die. So, but again, I'll chip away at it when I have time.
How many Final Fantasy games can you play concurrently? That's wild.
The only one right now.
Final Fantasy 9?
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. So 2.
Oh, yeah.
2.
I guess. I just hit my mic really loud, so people probably hear that.
Like that?
No, don't do that.
I did it. It's done.
I'm not cutting that out.
All right. So Sean writes in and says, "Hey fellas, enjoyed your Game of the Year discussion last week, making me really miss my consoles as I wait for the movers to arrive with my stuff. At least I've got my Switch. You briefly talked about games that could make Game of the Year that are coming out. Besides those, what other games are you looking forward to later this year? I think mine has to be the remake of Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, and Windbound continues to intrigue me. Take care, Sean." So I am also intrigued by Windbound. It's actually coming real soon. It's August already. Here we are. And I think it comes out at the end of August, so it's time to put up or shut up.
And we have to play it because we told them we would.
We did. We told the PR people that we would.
I'm going to email and be like, hey, we played it, and it was something. Whatever I think about it, I'm just saying.
It was something. It was delightful garbage. We're gonna ride the fence on it so hard. And then Pikmin 3 got announced, so now I'm gonna always probably be like, hey, Pikmin 3, because like I failed to mention this, but like after Origami King, nobody knew what Nintendo's up to. We still have 4 months in this year. And
God willing.
Exactly. God willing, we have 4 months in this year. And there's nothing until then they announced the Pikmin 3. But like, okay, but what else, Nintendo? There's gotta be something else. But maybe not.
You're just pining for that Wind Waker HD remake.
Wind Waker HD, I'll take that
whatever.
Mario collection that was rumored.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, if they haven't said anything about it by now, I mean, what are they gonna do? I guess they could shadow drop it, but
well, that's what they've been doing. Like October 30th is a lot further away than whatever the release date was for Paper Mario when they first announced. That was like 3 or 4 weeks away.
Sure, yeah.
But anyway, moving on. Crystal Chronicles, yes, Sean, we will be playing that together. So I'm excited for that. And we can get Jason in on it because you can play the first 3 like levels as long as one person has a purchase copy.
Oh, okay. As long as I don't have to pay for it, I'm good.
Yep. Actually, no, wait. No, if I have it, if one person has it, you can pretty much play the whole game co-op until the last level, and then they'll lock you out. So it's kind of like...
That's fine.
Yeah. You won't want to make it that far anyway.
Yeah.
And then I'm excited to see whatever Nintendo Switch Online has in store for when September rolls around, and they need to get all the people to resub for their subscription, because that's what they did last year with the Super Nintendo Classic like subscription service thing.
It's going to be N64 games.
But see, I don't want that. I want something else.
Whatever.
I know. Then there is that indie game that we talked about. Jason was kind enough to remind me that it's called Foregone. It's kind of Dead Cells-esque, but with less roguelike qualities, it seems. So kind of cool looking. And then finally, Kena, Bridge of Spirits is probably the biggest contender, like as far as like high profile. Looks really cool, but I'll definitely wait to see more as we get closer to the release. Supposedly this holiday. They said holiday season back, when we were still in COVID, so it should still be on track. What about you, Jason?
Well, for me, the most immediate 2020 game that I'm looking forward to, that's probably not going to be a Game of the Year contender, but certainly has a soft spot in my heart. Tony Hawk Pro Skater remake. I think that's coming in early.
What a dumb game.
I don't understand. You talked about how much you liked it over and over and over, and then I talked to you about it the other day, and you're like, "Oh yeah, I'm not playing that." Not
no,
even
I won't.
For free.
I won't be playing it.
Why?
But I do because Did you listen? Did you hear the games I'm playing right now? How long it's going to take me, and then there's going to be more games coming out.
Yeah, but all those games are bad. Like World of Final Fantasy, that's not better than Tony Hawk.
No, it's not. You're right.
But anyway, so Tony Hawk Pro Skater, I don't even need to say why I'm excited for that one. Like, I'm just excited for that one. Coming early September, I believe. Deathloop is one that I'm super stoked for because I personally love Dishonored 1 and 2, and this is Arcane Studios, published by Bethesda. They said it's coming in 2020, so I guess I'm assuming this is going to be a launch title. Odd thing about this one is it's actually, I think it's a PS5 timed exclusive. So I don't know that I'll get to play it this year because I don't know, like, even if I decide like to blow the money on the PlayStation 5 instead of like upgrading the graphics card of my desktop, because, oh, by the way, NVIDIA RTX 3000 series cards are rumored for this fall, and they're probably going to cost about $300 to $400. So if I decide to go PS5 over that, like, I don't even know that I could get my hands on one, given the supply chain constraints that they're under. So I don't know. That might be something I have to play when I get my PS5 eventually. And then the other one, I actually wrote this. I'm proud of myself because I wrote this before the State of Play. But Godfall is one that I'm excited about. And we talked in detail about that earlier, so I'm not going to rehash that, but definitely one I want to look into. And then finally, my runner-up, because I thought this was supposed to be a 2020 game, but I was mistaken. It's a 2021, but Solar Ash. That's that same team that made Hyper Light Drifter, so it's Heart Machine, and I think Annapurna is the publisher. But that's a 2021 game, but it looks pretty neat. And, that's another one of those games that has a very similar art style to these other games we've been talking about, these other indie games. But all the same, it looks pretty neat, and I want to check it out. So,
yep. I will add Bravely Default 2 to the list, although that demo was really kind of soured me to it, so we'll see. I haven't heard a single thing since that demo came out.
That's weird. I thought the demo meant that release was imminent. I remember you talking about that demo a while ago.
They much like the Octopath demo, because it's the same team. They actually use that as a legitimate beta, or even like a very late alpha, where they want people's feedback, and so they're probably they probably released it farther ahead of their original release or the official release, because they want the time to make the changes.
Respect.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, cool. Well, that was a pretty long episode. So we'll leave you with this. Hope you all had a fantastic week, or hope you all have a fantastic week. We will try, but we are never free to play. Mr. Eggman, boo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo, cook me a dream, boo-doo-doo-doo, make it the smelliest that I've ever seen.
Go get your drink.
Cook it at 10 p.m. in my stove and tell me that my hungry nights are over, Mr. Eggman. Okay, I'm done.